Hello and welcome back to the Manga Lair. It has been over 2 years since I last did a tour of my collection, and I thought now would be a good time to go over the collection and update it because it's grown substantially in those past 2 years. Now, unlike last time, I'm not 100% certain on the amount of volumes in my collection. I have a good estimate of it being about 1,250, but I'm not sure exactly how under or how over, just that it's in that range. This is because the collection app that I use to track all of my current volumes doesn't count all of my box sets as completely separate things. It only counts some of them. And because they're kind of out of order, I had to do some math, and I think I got over 1,250, but for all I know, I counted a set twice. Also, unlike last time, it's not just this room, there's actually a whole nother place, which you've probably seen in shorts whenever I change locations, which is a second set of manga, which doesn't always get counted with this section. But without further ado, let's begin with this Viz shelf right behind me, starting with, well, I guess starting with isn't the most accurate description of what I'm going to do. If a volume is not hard or I don't remember exactly what numbers I have up to, I'll go and move them, but as you can see now, 2 rows of manga on a single shelf. Starting in the back like last time, Angel Sanctuary. There's more volumes this time, a couple of them at the end are missing. Followed by Black Clover, continuing to the last 2 volumes right here. Call of the Night up to volume 12, Chainsaw Man up to volume 13, and 2 different publishers doing Dead Man Wonderland, funnily enough. Both the Viz version for volumes 1, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then 2, 3, 4 from its original printing. Moving on to the next shelf, I did miss volume 9 of Dead Man Wonderland right there in the back, followed by Dragon Ball Super, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, and Fly Me to the Moon, down to this shelf. How Do We Relationship, Hunter x Hunter, the first 6 volumes, and then Jujutsu Kaisen up to volume 17. And then right there on the ending off the shelf, Kaiju number 8's first 5 volumes. Now, you do see right here on Jujutsu Kaisen there is volumes missing. That is because a lot of my manga now comes from a used bookstore, and that means that I kind of get volumes out of order. So, while I have read most of them up to date, because I go and I read them online, my physical collection is missing volumes now. Most obvious example is right here with 13, 15, and 16, but over there on this other shelf, Angel Sanctuary was the same way, having that gap right there. Moving on to the next shelf, we have Komi Can't Communicate, up to volume 23. 12 is randomly sticking off to the side because I didn't want to block stuff. Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, the first 10 volumes. This is the first 14 volumes of My Hero Academia. Continuing on a shelf later, it's all the way up to 40, missing exactly number 38. The 3-in-1 editions of One Piece, funnily enough, randomly the first 9 volumes, then one randomly in Impel Down, and then one randomly in Wano. And by one in Wano, I actually meant 2 because it continues down on this shelf. One Punch Man, which now only missing 17. And then the most egregious example of me missing volumes. The first 7 volumes are a box set, so I do have those, but if you just kind of look down the list, over here for both the Pokemon Adventures, there's just so many random little volumes missing that I'm trying to get. And then you have Sakamoto Days, which continues up into the front, next to Spy X Family, and Undead Unluck, because I didn't want all the signature editions, which are all behind them, to be out of place with one another. And since they're taller, they could sit behind it. In signatures, we have the entire collection of Crazy Food Truck, Doro Hedoro, Fire Punch, Golden Kamuy, 3 of those volumes. This is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, a single volume of Evangelion. That is a row of The Way of the House Husband, Vagabond, and then 2 volumes of Zom 100. And then finally getting to the row technically on the same shelf, but classed as a different shelf to me, we have my Kodansha shelf. I have the first volume of Attack on Titan, the Colossal Edition, 10 volumes of Before the Fall, Hidorujime, My Hero, 2 volumes, Parasite, volumes 1 to 3. You can see number 1 was definitely pre-owned by all of those broken spine. Rent a Very Shy Girlfriend, Saint Youngman, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, the manga edition, the first 7 here, and then moving on up to 25. Then we have one slime spinoff, because one of them is by Kodansha, and the other one is over on, I believe, the Yen Press shelf. 5 volumes of the 7 Deadly Sins. And then When Will Ayuma Make His Move? 7 volumes of it. Now here's where things are going to get a little bit messy. Technically, you can see over there 2 Tokyo Ghouls, but we'll get back to those when I do the rest of the box sets. However, this is light novels that have been added since the light novel shelf got filled up. You've got the Chainsaw Man and Demon Slayer volumes. Didn't I Say to Make My Ability Average in the Next Life? I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Random volumes of Mushoku Tensei. I mean, it's the first 4 and then 15 and 17. The first 3 of Rising of the Shield Hero. 2 of Solo Leveling. And then That is actually a random collection of that time I got reincarnated as a slime, honestly. But then if I move down a little bit, when I get to the actual light novel shelf, which was mostly present in the last video, we have Adachi and Shimamura, bottom tier character Tomozaki, Classroom of the Elite, a random year 2 volume has now been thrown in, all of Konosuba, Katanagatari, which is by the same author as the Monogatari series, which is why it ended up right here, even though it's technically not in order. No Game No Life, continuing down more No Game No Life. Rascal Does Not Dream of series right there, missing volume 10. ReZero up to volume 19. And Toradora, the 10 volumes of that entire series. On to another shelf at this point, we have Bakemonogatari, the manga edition, up to the first 16 volumes. Blood on the Tracks, which is in two different spots. Right here is 5, 11, and 12. A different shelf actually houses the first 4. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, the 16 volumes of that. Nichijou Volume 11, because the first 10 are a box set. Moving down, we have 4 volumes of Bofuri over there on the left. Then we've got Higurashi, which kind of pulls onto this next line. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, I Want to Be a Wall. And then we start Kakegurui, which goes all the way to volume 15. I hate the black spines. Think I know why they are like this, but it's just no. You could have done every other. Then Kakegurui Twins, the first 10, and then up to 12, going on this next shelf. Madoka Magica the Wrath arc, the first 7 volumes of Mirako-chan, My Youth Romantic Comedy Is Wrong As I Expected, 10 volumes, The Rascal Does Not Dream of series, the first 2 manga of that, the first 3 volumes of Solo Leveling. Then we have SAO volumes, which continue down to this very bottom shelf with the other slime isekai. And finally, moving on to our last shelf, we have the completed shelf. And I mean, there's technically some others down at the bottom, Dark Horse and stuff like that, but we'll get to those in a bit. Starting off the completed shelf, we have Act Age, way over there in the corner, Assassination Classroom, Darling in the Franxx, and all of Dr. Stone except for the fun little thing that they released afterwards, the future one. Moving on, then we have Horimiya plus its bonus volume. Finally, all of How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend after all of this time. Kaguya-sama Love is War, which I'm pretty sure I'm no longer missing a random volume of. The Megamine spinoff. My Hero Vigilantes, up to 10 on this shelf. Then moving down here up to 13, even though 13 is not the last volume, I thought it'd be easier to move it over here instead of keeping it on the Viz shelf because honestly the Viz shelf is completely full. Next up, Mysterious Girlfriend X, Nisekoi, all the way to the end, No Game No Life Please, Orange, Platinum End, still hate that series, man, The Promised Neverland, moving on, more Promised Neverland, The Quintessential Quintuplets, Weathering With You, Your Name, and its little spin-off, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And then even though it sounded like they were all done, we actually move on to the oversized volumes, which I keep underneath them so that I can not use risers. And we have Goodnight Poon Poon, Italia, Madoka Magica, Watakoi, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1, and even though it technically isn't, the rest of Part 1 and Part 2. Then bouncing back over to this shelf, High Score Girl, 20th Century Boy, and 21st Century Boy. And then all of these other manga that you see that are backwards and that Dragon Ball Super are actually extra volumes that I've accidentally ordered twice that I kind of just use as bookends. And then finally bouncing back to this part of the shelf, we have the first 2 volumes of Berserk. It's still too expensive for me to buy more. The supplements for The Ancient Magus Bride, My Dress-Up Darling, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and part of its spin-offs, The Great Jahi-sama Will Not Be Defeated, Inside Mari, and then continuing on right over there still, Mushoku Tensei, The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, The Reprise of the Spear Hero, and The Rising of the Shield Hero. And then finally, as I said I'd go back, you've got box sets, Tokyo Ghoul, Tokyo Ghoul Re, Full Metal Alchemist, A Silent Voice, Death Note, Demon Slayer, the original Dragon Ball Z, Seasons 2 and 3 of Monogatari, and Nichijou. And then finally for real, we have the other shelf with little random things on it. Starting off with, we have Blitz, a Bakugan manga, Manga the Complete Guide, some volumes of Danganronpa from various different series, Keep Your Hands Off of Eizouken, reincarnated as a sword, and Another Wish, Blue Period, Missing Volume 3, The Manga Guide to Cryptography and Microprocessors, Kuma 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 Bear, now loading, The Strongest Sage with the Weakest Crest, finally those Blood on the Tracks from before that I was talking about, which continue down here with that 4th volume, Persona 3, 4, and 5, some sneak peeks and manga samplers, most of them by Viz. Oh no, all of them are by Viz. Black Butler's first 5 volumes, Oshino Ko, skipping a whole lot of volumes to 10, and then After School Hanako-kun, Bound Hanako-kun, and Mob Psycho 100, the Reagan spinoff.